Good evening and welcome to our meeting. Someone has to turn off their mic. Speaker, thank you. Okay, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Mrs. Sugars, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Stratton,
Present.
Mrs. Fleischer,
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Dr. Rude,
Here.
Mrs. Tong,
Here.
Mrs. Winters,
Here.
Ms. Stern.
Okay. I'm really excited to turn the microphone over to Dr. Morton because I think we have a few people in this room that we might want to recognize tonight. So.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stern. Absolutely. We have a fine looking group out here with us today. And we are very excited that today we're going to be recognizing our 2023 National History Day Award winners. So I'm going to ask Ms. Wilson to join me here at the microphone. We'll take it from there.
Good evening. This evening, we have our National History Day winners from last spring. We're recognizing two teams under the direction of advisor Mrs. Christy Morella. The first team won the National History Day Junior Group Documentary. They placed 4th in the nation, which is very impressive. And our second group is the National History Day group who won the African American History Special Prize. So I'm going to have Mrs. Morella come on up and tell you a little bit more about what they did to earn these achievements. And we have certificates as well. So I'll put these here for you and the microphone is yours.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the Board of Education and Dr. Morton and Mr. Guy so much for your support. The last year has been amazing, and this is just a small smattering. We took 17 eighth graders to the University of Maryland to compete, 2 documentaries, a junior group performance, and a junior group exhibit. But that's just a little bit. It started with 70 some students that went on an incredible journey. We took the most students we've ever had to states this year, and it was such an incredible experience looking at frontiers in history. I would be lying when I said that this group that's behind me were not just great historians, they were great civic-minded young individuals who spent well over 1,500 hours outside of school. We stayed every day after school till almost 6 o'clock. Every Friday we had pizza until 7, and pretty much every Saturday from December until June. Their awards culminate the many that we have. I can see that our East representatives were also former NHDers, and actually many of you have students that have done it as well. It is an activity that transcends the classroom, and it's way more than a competition in a day. It's really a journey, and it's been my life's passion. I want to thank all the members in the community that supported us this past year, whether it was just moral support or financial support. We truly believe that you all in Cherry Hill helped us make history. And without further ado, let me introduce you to, first up, our Varian Fry group, their documentary, which will be recorded in Congress again in October. They've already been submitted in April, but their research and work will be represented again to both the House and the Senate so that not only Varian Fry, but our local hero, Josiah Du Bois, will receive the Gold Star. Their documentary came in 4th in the nation. I know everyone's like, well, you've done it before. It's actually really hard to place in the top 10, so we're very proud of them. But if I could have Olivia come on up, Colin, Zach, Ethan, and Justin, the Varian Fry, or as we call them, the Fry guys, and Olivia. Our second is a exhibit. I'm so excited on our local individual. Marian Anderson was an opera singer, but she used her platform for civil rights and spoke out against separate but not equal, as we all know. She was a true treasure to the South Philadelphia area. Their research really came to that local level, and they were awarded the special prize, which was sponsored by the National Park System for African American History. I am so proud to introduce Matthew, Athira, Sophia, Anna. They sung into my heart. Their exhibit is amazing.
And student winners, if you would join me out in the lobby, we'll get a picture for the district website and social media. Parents, you can take pictures with us as well. Thank you.
Thanks everyone so much.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. And for those of you who are civically engaged, please don't forget to fill out the survey, the superintendent search survey that is happening right now too. Okay, it's my little plug. Okay. So now we have our reports, our student. Oh, I jumped ahead. Why did I jump ahead like that? Sorry about that. We have our New Jersey Learning Acceleration Program presentation for high impact tutoring grant. Very excited about that. So
All right, and I see them coming in here in the back. So I'm very pleased this evening to have our three of our curriculum and instruction supervisors here with us today. Our 4 curriculum and instruction supervisors collaborated to put together the district's grant, high impact tutoring grant that was submitted last week. They're going to provide some updates this evening, just to hopefully answer a few questions, just to let you know about what the elements of our application are and what they contained. All right, so.
Hi, thank you so much to the board, Dr. Morton, for introducing us. If you're unfamiliar, we are here to share a little bit about our application into the New Jersey High Impact grant. It was a competitive grant for high impact tutoring, as Dr. Morton mentioned, worked on by all 4 of the CNI supervisors. Oh, hey, I'm Christy Blendetto. The focus of the grant, as directed by the State Board of Education, was to offer high impact tutoring specifically to current 3rd and 4th grade students in ELA and mathematics. And based on our 2022-2023 NJSLA scores, the state determined that we are eligible for up to $460,000 with this grant.
Thank you, Christy. Fatia Abdurrahman. I'm going to give you a little bit about the research that went into the benefit of a high impact tutoring. Timing, frequency, and format are 3 of the big things that in this grant we were looking at. Timing, 30 to 45 minutes blocks of time focused on specific content areas, math and ELA. Frequency is 3 or more times per week, the research suggests. And the format, either before, during, or after the school day when you have a focused target audience, both in person and on virtual options. It was a very strenuous process that we had to go through. So some of the key areas, all key areas are identified and answered using a specific number of characters and guidelines from the state. Cherry Hill Public School application will be scored on a 100-point rubric. We must score at least 70 points to receive the funding. And those the process we had to go through a narrative. The application narrative and budgetary planning is inputted into the state information portal. The deadline, all applications must be submitted to the state by September the 20th, 2023. But I am proud to announce that this amazing team, we're so ambitious that we submitted September the 18th, 2023. And then the grant time period is between October the 11th, 2023 to August the 31st, 2024. So that's the process. And there's 8 areas with the grant outline. I mentioned the narrative. The first area is the project abstract, is the summary of what we are planning to do. So it provides a summary that briefly describes the proposed project, needs, purpose, and projected outcome for the full grant period, which again is October the 11th, 2023 to August the 31st, 2024. And then the second area was the statement of need. Basically, what's our need and why are we asking for the grant? And so there we had a summary that identified the local conditions and or our need that justified the projected proposed project proposed. The project description is the third area. And that basically was the detailed narrative of the complete project design and plan for implementing the project over the entire grant period. And then the fourth area is the goal, objective, and indicator. Applications must develop a goal, an objective for the local project for each of the program, and this support the activity plan. And Allison is going to share the rest of the outline.
Good evening. Thank you, Christy and Fatia. I'm Allison Staffen from the Curriculum Office. Additional narratives that had to be put into this particular application included the project activity plan, which piggybacks on the goals, objectives, and indicators. So it's just a chart that kind of outlines that so that the readers know that we have thought succinctly about what it is that we're trying to do. Then our commitment capacity, we had to show them that, yes, as a district, we are able to carry out this grant if awarded. And then the budget, what will we be spending this money on? So we do have our last slide will take you through what our proposal was. We know it's subject to change. Our funding allocation right now is allocated at $460,000 is what it would be if we're granted it. It's a competitive grant. That number could change. And then some uploads, who the vendors are that we would be considered to partner with, or we had to upload that. We had to upload a health and safety agreement for our tutors, what it is that we'll be asking them for, and tutor qualifications. So all those things got uploaded as separate documents outside of the narrative. So we have a proposed plan. We know that it is subject to change based on the funding allocation that we could be receiving. But ideally right now, we would be looking at 30-minute sessions by a CHPS teacher or an approved vendor, somebody that we had vetted that would go through the same kind of background check that our teachers go through to be hired. These 30-minute sessions would be provided before school, after school, or during the I&E period at the elementary level. We looked at the I&E period, know that we can do 30 minutes pretty comfortably, and the inside the I&E period that would happen during the school day would be through a vendor, because we know that our teaching staff would be allocated to teaching classes and doing whatever they're responsible for in the building. Hoping to be able to do all that in person, there is a slight chance that we would be competing for those vendors with other districts who also received grant funding. So there's a possibility that we might have to do some of that virtually, but ideally we'd like to provide some of it during the school day. But we are offering outside of school so that it can help accommodate student schedules. Some have band and things like that they pull out during that I&E that they couldn't participate during that time frame. So we're hoping to provide before and after school to really help with parent schedules as well as student schedules. We would also be looking to have all 12 elementary schools being able to participate in this. So they would be able to identify students, and their students would be allocated based on the amount of students that are proposed to be part of this, as well as the funding that's allocated. So we would be able to proportionally distribute that way. And then parents would be able to select when would be the most ideal time for their child to receive this tutoring. And funding allocations did not allow us to go into summertime. You'd be surprised how quickly $460,000 gets eaten up with something like this. Again, we know that the plan is based on what that funding allocation will look like. And we're just going to cross our fingers now until October 11th and see what happens. Any questions? Mr. Mayor.
So first, thank you for the presentation, and all of us have at one time or another, and probably multiple times, talked on different issues about how we so desperately need this kind of help and support. So we're glad that the state is hopefully interested in partnering and doing this, and more than just two thumbs up and all crossed fingers that it works out well and we get the money. I do have a couple questions though, and maybe these may be premature. So if they haven't been fleshed out, or if I throw something out that you haven't worked on yet, completely understood. But take it back so you can maybe think about these.
Absolutely.
It appears that outside vendors have already been identified, so you know who those would be if they're in the application. I do have questions about, or a question about, if all 12 elementary schools are going to participate, which we want, how do each of those schools identify which students at the schools would be most appropriate to receive the high impact tutoring?
Excellent question, and one that we've gone roundabout with, and please jump in at any point in time. So we looked to the schools themselves to identify the number of students that they believe would benefit currently. We looked at schools, their I&RS process. So they already have an identified cohort of students that they know can benefit from extra support in math and or English. So we asked them to identify those students. And then looking at that, we have actually a chart of which schools have how many students, and then we'll look to see how many we can accommodate. Right now, we're looking at about 200 students to be able to be accommodated through this $460,000 based on how it priced out. But they're looking at things like the students that took NJSLA in the past. We have their scores, but we also have internal mechanisms through Eureka Math, through ELA supports with Dibbles for the second grade, because we know they don't test for the current third grade cohort. So we have Dibbles and Maze. We have Eureka, either Equip or Affirm pre-assessments as baseline data, as well as what the schools, the other local information that the schools have been able to collect on their students. So they have identified a cohort who already are in need based on these determining factors.
And that's been, and the identification process looks then beyond just the single data point of an NJSLA.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Next question, maybe a little more difficult. So if the capacity is approximately 200 students total, and that's if we get the full 460,000, maybe that capacity goes down a bit, maybe it doesn't. If there are conflicts between, is simply we can't accommodate through the grant all of the students that have been previously identified, how do you make the difficult decision as to who gets the tutoring and who does not?
That's a conversation that we're still having. It is definitely a conversation that has started, and we're looking at the schools to help guide us. They're their students, so they know them better than anybody else is going to. We're also, there might be people that will decline the tutoring. So we don't know that yet until we start surveying parents and families about based on what we have identified. We did it in 2 12-week blocks. So we'll do 6 of our elementaries for 12 weeks, and then we'll do another 6 elementaries for another 12 weeks, looking for the tutoring to happen for intensively those 10 weeks. First week is building rapport, getting to know one another, because the tutor will not be their classroom teacher. And then pre-assessment, and then the last week would be post-assessment and kind of wrapping things up with data. But we'll depend heavily on the schools to identify who they believe are going to benefit the most from this high impact tutoring. And then based on parent input and whether or not there's even availability based on what we can offer, if they can take advantage of it or not.
Last question. I'm not putting you on the spot.
That's okay. I'm doing all right.
Doing great. I imagine from what I understand based on the presentation, all the analysis of the students that have been identified already throughout whatever conversations you may have to have, if the number has to go down, the those students and all of the data that you're using is at the student level. It's not necessarily where does the student live, what school do they go to? It's at the student level. So the most, those students who your staff and who the schools have identified through data would most likely benefit from and are in the greatest need are the ones that will get this support, regardless of what school they attend.
That is our hope.
Student level. Okay.
That is our hope. And
Perfect.
it's all 12 schools.
Good. Great. Thank you. Sorry if I, grilled you a little more than you expected, but
No, not at all.
this is it. This is great. I mean, I really, really support this. Always have, and anything we can do to continue to give you support in finding these kinds of opportunities, you can certainly count on.
Thank you. And we do appreciate it. And because it is a competitive grant, the highest amount that they can award us, if they award us anything, is $768,000. So the state has put that as the ceiling for the most that we could be awarded if we are awarded any part of the grant at all. So we're just going to keep crossing fingers and toes. Any other questions? Mrs. Elmer Stratton.
That sounds so weird.
I know.
My only question, and you may not know if how Department Ed is doing this, but are they doing it with the points in terms of if you score over the 70, but still there's a number of people that scored a 70, so then the money keeps dwindling down, like similar to the way they distribute like 21st century funds?
So based on what we could see, the least amount that Cherry Hill would be awarded is $460,000. They
Okay.
did it, they bracketed it. So every school in the state that was eligible to apply was given a funding amount to start with. That's what we started our budget with. So the least amount that we would receive is 460,000. The most we would receive is 768.
Okay.
So there's a possibility that schools in the state decided not to apply for whatever reason. Or there's schools whose application didn't reach that 70 points. And that money, based on my understanding of competitive grants, having been part of this process before, gets brought together and then they just start
Yeah, they start
dividing it
sharing
out with the schools that are receiving the funding.
Right. That's what I was worried. Like when they start dividing it out, they go by the points that you've scored. So yeah, I'm worried about that. But 460.
But 460 is the minimum. So, and that's what we based our budget on. So you're welcome. Any other questions? Mrs. Winters.
I'm just so excited because I feel like we were talking about this in CNI back in February, which seems like a lifetime ago, but here we are finally in September. So thank you guys so much for working on this. I seem to remember a conversation at some point that we might be able to do tutoring beyond just the 2 grades that the state identified. Am I remembering that correctly, or that discussion, and how did that go with the application process?
You are remembering that conversation correctly. And in February, so that everybody is aware, they actually put the call for vendors out. So the vendors that we looked at were vendors that were vetted by the state of New Jersey and who we were permitted to reach out to. $460,000 did not take us beyond 3rd and 4th grade. We were hoping to go all the way through middle school from 3rd through 8th. And in the summertime, we're like $460,000. Yes. Not so much. Then we started really looking at it, and based on what the schools had sent us as far as the need, it 3rd and 4th grade in math and English, there is a need that would have spent that $460,000 and then some.
Totally understand. Thanks so much. And I'm really excited to see what the outcomes of this are, because this is something that I know that we all want to look at even going forward. If it's extremely successful, the board wants to know that as we continue to support all the things that you do to support our kids. So thank you so much.
And thank you for the support. It's important. Anybody else? Is there?
So yeah, I mean, I guess some questions and comments. It's kind of staggering to see what it costs to tutor 200 kids at that age group. I
is,
mean,
absolutely.
it's a reality. You know, I think we talk a lot about ensuring, the resources for under-resourced students in our district, and students who have, more needs, right? And we talk a lot about kind of equity, right? And this is the conversation of budgetarily what it takes. So, I mean, first of all, I'm always thrilled when we go after money that we've already paid in from our tax base to the state and is now potentially coming back to us in our district specifically. We've had a lot of that lately, and it's great to see that it's coming back to education and that we have the opportunity to win this. So I hope it happens, comes through. A few specific questions. So, I think about some of the challenges our students faced with virtual learning. And I think about, this is, I kind of caught my breath a little bit when I saw how much virtual is going to be happening. And I think I'm guessing it may be happening even during INRS, that there may be, more virtual tutoring. And I guess I'm trying to conceptualize how that's going to, be successful with these younger kids, who's going to be with them, kind of the need for parent support. If we have some of the students identified who maybe, right after school is not a time when there's family or other people around, adults to support, maybe they're, assuming someone's with the kids, but just trying to conceptualize how that's going to go in terms of what might realistically be needed. Are there other resources that, is our student advocates, are they going to be connecting with families whose kids might be identified if they're maybe a known family to our district, just to ensure these kids really have what they need to be participating? That's one question. I have one more, but I'll leave it there and come back to the next one.
Okay, so, and jump in at any point. So we talked about that. We did talk about the idea of virtual because of the research and things like that and what their previous experiences were. We do know that it's going to require some parental support as far as getting them logged in and things like that. We did reach out and work with other districts who offered virtual even last year in a tutoring scenario and indicated that with third and fourth graders, they were really comfortable and confident in doing that. And the 30-minute time frame worked well for them. We're not talking about what we did during COVID when they were online for an entire day, every day. And we were kind of looking at, we've talked about tapping into SAC and seeing if any of these students are members of SAC and might be able to do something in person. The caveat there is it's consecutive days or whatever those days look like. And a student in SAC isn't necessarily in SAC the right days that we would need them to be available. So we haven't figured out schedule yet. That will come in the next layer. We will move very, very quickly once the allocation comes through as far as getting it all scheduled, and vendors are looking to be able to start. The start of tutoring would happen in November. We would take kind of those 2 weeks in October to get it all planned and get input from parents. But we did have that same conversation about putting students online, especially in the morning. Like I'm trying to get dressed for work and I got to make sure that little Fatia is online and doing what she needs to do appropriately. So we are aware of that and hoping to get parent input about where it fits best for them and what would be the best look for their child. Transportation is another issue we thought we might be, but I have some busing, like late buses at the high schools. Yeah, $460,000 doesn't do that when our priority is really tutoring students.
We were very ambitious in the beginning.
We were.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. Like $500,000 almost. It sounds like a lot of money, but it goes fast. And busing, I signed the busing contract, so I can tell you there's absolutely no way that we could
It would have
possibly.
eaten up the whole budget. We would have tutored 10
Yeah,
kids, one
yeah.
or 12 kids, one from each elementary school.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, it's shocking how
Yes.
expensive busing can get. So we had no way, but it's a great ed. But I think that piece about like what time are the kids getting up and who's there it's a lot. It's a lot to
Yes.
think about. The other question I have is, and I've seen this happen, right? Sometimes kids, like once they start to get that assistance, they kind of some of them really quickly get like to a really good they get to the level.
Mhm.
If there's, if that's happening, it's only 12 weeks, but it could happen. It might that student, if they're having success, do they have to complete the 12 weeks? Or if they're having a lot of success and kind of getting to where they need to, is there room to perhaps provide an opportunity for a new student to step in, to take that place?
So part of the requirement was making sure that they have consistency. And so they had to have 3 weeks, same tutor, same child within that time frame of the grant. So we had to very, very strict process that we had to follow. So that would not be the ideal, like to replace children because of that process.
And we know that the research suggests that students typically have actually lost more than that. So it would be amazing if we made those gains plus during that 12 weeks,
Yeah.
but the realistic expectation is that during a 12-week cycle, it'll be amazing if we can catch a majority of students up to where we would love for them to be now. You know, if we had the money, we would love to do this longer. But it'll be great if we end up at that point and
I'm-
we're asking ourselves, how did we get
That'd
so
be
many
good.
students to this amazingly high level?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not at all a realistic scenario, but okay, gotcha. Last question is what kind of collaboration then will happen with the school staff to ensure that there's an understanding if let's say there are certain areas that are really like standing out for that student. I mean, I know our elementary teachers do a lot of differentiation for our students, so they're individualizing a lot in the classroom, but I'm just wondering how that connection gets made. Is that built in that there's collaboration time with the classroom teachers or the teacher coach or whoever's working with the kids, the reading specialist, whoever it is?
Yeah, that's actually part of the grant proposal. We had to address what the communication would be and how our tutors, whether they're in district or vendor tutors, are being, the data is being collected and those exact points are being communicated with their core classroom teachers. Yeah, so that's part of the plan. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks. Very excited. Let's hope we get this. We're on a roll. We're on a roll. So let's hope this continues.
Are the pre and post assessments, are they provided by the state?
No.
Okay.
So if it's a district teacher, we will have our district. Yeah. If it's a district tutor, we'll have our pre and post assessment. If it's one of our vendor tutors, they provide pre and post assessment.
Okay, I'm looking around. I don't see any more questions. Thank you so much. It was fantastic.
Thank
Let's
you.
Thank you all.
hoping. Okay, I'm not skipping ahead. I'm staying on track. No administrative reports. Okay. Board member correspondence. Do we have any board members who would like to share correspondence? Mr. Greenberg.
Thank you. So I have a feeling this is one of many talking about back to school night, so I'll keep it brief. But I attended Cooper Back to School Night as both a representative of the board and as a Cooper parent. As always, Cooper events are well organized, well attended. I wanted to acknowledge the hard work of the PTA volunteers and an extra thank you for ordering spiritware in my size. I've been waiting a year for that. And as always, thank you to the representatives from Giuseppe for attending this. And I think all of the other back to school nights provide valuable resources to parents about services available to our students. Thank you.
Okay. Other board members? We'll go around. All right, there you go. Mrs. Winters, you're next.
I was lucky to attend Rosa sixth grade back to school night, Kingston back to school night, and East back to school night, which was amazing just to see it happen at all the different levels. Really cool. I am happy to report I did not get lost at Cherry Hill East, which was really incredible. Several board members watched me running through the building enthusiastically. I could not believe how amazingly well prepared and enthusiastic the teachers were about the subjects they were teaching. I told Dr. Perry I want to audit all these classes because they sound really awesome. My freshman told me that was super lame, but I I think it sounded cool. At Kingston, I got to spend a lot of time hanging out with the PTA and hearing about all the things they have planned. I got to see Dr. Marble's wheel that they get to spin at Kingston for doing good things, being recognized for being good community leaders at that school. So I thought that was an innovative way to acknowledge the students who are really shining as part of that community and encourage that. And at Rosa, again, I was excited to be there for sixth grade night. No sixth grade parents were lost at sixth grade night, which was very cool. And we all got to enjoy the new lockers and the new floor in the 6th grade wing. So yeah, really successful back to school nights, and just neat to see it as a parent at all 3 levels now, how amazing it is for all of our kids to watch their teachers plan for what they're going to learn and grow this year.
Dr. Root?
Sure. So I attended East back to school as a parent. I think I got my steps in because I had to go from B wing to F wing to B wing to G wing to C wing to F wing or something like that. It was a lot. And I was able to get in a dig at Shakespeare, so I was pretty happy about that. I have to say that for Gina. But it was a great night. It's nice to see the enthusiasm of the teachers, and how much they care about their topics and how much they care about their students, and just to see all of the parents out and about supporting their kids, and all of the other wonderful people who are there to, you know, sell swag and get people signed up to do stuff and interact in the community. So it was really nice.
My question is, did either of you go to the pool on the 4th floor? That's my question.
Yes, I took the elevator there from the lounge in the basement.
That was our little back and forth banter before at back to school night. Just don't go to the 4th floor to the pool because it doesn't exist. Just to be clear, just that's a joke. Okay. So I'll go now. I went to several back to school nights. Mrs. Elmore Stratton and I, you can talk about Rosa. I'll move on from that because we were there together. I got to go to Barton, which was really neat. I was there last year for a meeting. This year I was there for back to school night. I saw a lot of faces of people that I knew, which was neat, both parents and teachers and staff. So that was great. Got to hear about Eureka Math Squared and, oh my gosh, the other math program that's being used at ST Math. Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher, ST Math, which sounds like it's a great program also for that is not dependent on English language, which is really helpful because that's a topic we've talked about with our students who are English language learners and their families, you know, having every subject that the kids are in requires English, and apparently this program is different. So that's fantastic. We have that, and Eureka Math Square, just lots of enthusiasm. And that was at Barton. And then I'm trying to remember the order of the schools because it was a few in a row. I think Kilmer was next, or Carusi, maybe Carusi. So Carusi was also fantastic again. Families, kids, parents, and teachers and staff. Nice to see them. I think, you know, my sense is middle school is always a tough time for kids, and middle school was really tough the past few years. Not sure. I would never say one was tougher than another, but it was a hard, you know, hard run for a lot of the kids and the staff. So the thing I heard resoundingly clear was excitement, enthusiasm, optimism from the staff and many of the families. And I saw a bunch of students. I saw one student, it was Carusi first, Kilmer the next night, because I saw the same student at Carusi and in Kilmer. She was there for herself at Carusi and siblings at Kilmer. It was great, you know, just the energy, the enthusiasm. Kilmer was next. And I pulled up to the Kilmer parking lot, and not only were there's not a single spot anywhere and none on the street, but there were, I didn't know if they were giving away concert tickets. I mean, there were literally like people lined up. And I tried to quietly move to the front so I could greet people without seeming like I was cutting the line. I, you know, again, saw parents and teachers, who I've seen over time. It was so lovely to meet them and to see them again, new faces, old faces. You know, very active PTA tables at every school, and I got a chance to, because it was right where I was, so I got a chance to talk to parents. I talked to a lot of family members who came from other countries, had different experiences with their own educational experiences and learning experiences in their countries, which are oftentimes very different from what we have here. So it was really neat to, one parent who was from another country and saying, well, what's PTA? And I don't want to, I don't know if I have time to commit to PTA. And we had a great conversation about like just signing up and joining is just a great way to get involved. You don't have to do anything beyond that necessarily. And as his child is pointing to one of the events that there's a picture of, I think, an upcoming event, like a social night. It was just exciting to see all these families engaged. I met a parent who has my name and spelling differently and grew up in another country. And we're talking about it's just really neat stuff to talk to people and really understand, the different cultures and climates of each of our schools. And then attending back to school night for my own kids at East. And, just again, like I've done this many times, right? Been around for a while, but like just the enthusiasm and the high level of engagement that I experienced from the teachers, multiple teachers for 2 different kids. It was really cool. I was pretty blown away. And there was a couple of classes that I kind of wanted to come audit myself. So anyway, long-winded, but really a great, enthusiastic, exciting week. And I think that's all that I did. So turn it over to Mr. Mayor.
So I guess a lot of this is going to be sort of more of the same, but the same is really good. I attended Cherry Hill West's back to school primarily as a parent, and like Mrs. Stern said, really the same, sort of the same thing. The energy is amazing from all the teachers. And like Dr. Rude, I also got in plenty of steps. Appreciated the difficulties that some students have in getting to class on time. Was happy to hear that some of the teachers recognize that as well and don't hold it against the kids. But the teachers were all, just thrilled to be back, as they always are. So that's not new. I would say, though, this year, more parents came up to me, and, we all have experiences with parents and community members from time to time, and maybe more often than not, the comments and tend towards criticism as opposed to anything terribly positive. But that was definitely not the case here at West. I mean, I definitely felt a different vibe from the parents, much more positive. They felt like, things are on track. They're where they feel that, things are where they should be after the COVID pandemic. They were thrilled that their kids are back. No horror stories, just a lot of great energy. Looking forward to a good school year at West. So that was all, it was all positive. Also had chance to go to Woodcrest's back to school night for both of the sessions, the K to second grade and also 3rd to 5th grade. And also had to park 2 blocks away. It was a packed house. Parents kept streaming in to both sessions. Very similar to what ARC was like the week before, where there just seems to be even more parent engagement, parent enthusiasm across the board. Very, very, very positive. I did get a chance to also walk in and listen to most of the presentation. One of the kindergarten teachers at WordCrest. These comments are not tailored to the current audience, but because the teacher that I chose was taught all 3 of our kids at ARC, Kim Redfern. She still has the same energy. And, again, it's just one of those teachers that I think, Cherry Hill has always been proud of. And I've told her this as well. One of the reasons I got involved with the district was in supporting her back when she was a teacher for our kids when they were so much younger. And while telling her that, our oldest daughter, Avery, was texting me from college as part of sort of the continuum of it. Started there with her, and here she is asking this time for me a little advice that I didn't give her at the time. In any event, it was just another example of the fact that, we talk at this table about how great our teachers are, and the teachers are really that's our are prized gem of the district, and it's true. And, Kim Redfern is certainly one of them. So I would encourage you, for those of you, I think we're done with back to school nights, but I'm glad that I got it, a chance to sit in and watch, because it's one thing to talk to the teachers and see, or, see the parents, but to actually see them in action, just brings it all home. And, they were both really great opportunities. I'm glad I got a chance to do it, and, can't wait to go to more of them next year.
So I will just say, really easy, hold on. So great job to A. Russell Knight, Carusi, Rosa, Bret Hart, Rosa again. Just going down the list of all the places. Payne, especially Payne. So many folks I went to school with were at Payne. Almost forgot that I was there as a board member and was just busting it up talking to old folks that I knew from high school. And then Carusi again, hanging out over there was really nice as well. And Beck, of course. And that is all. And back to school nights are not over. There are still some schools to go. So really excited to head out to Sharp and to our Malberg school this week. So that should be pretty fun to cap off the week. But I just wanted to say to all the educators and administrators that got the buildings prepared, I know what that first 2 weeks of school is like, where you're doing more projects about me, about the kids, about them, showing off so that you can make your classrooms look pretty, so that they can feel like they're a part of the room before they get there and before you get started and dug into the meat and bones of the school year. So just as a parent and as a board member, I really appreciate seeing all the time you take into those 2 weeks. Also, the students that participated, specifically at the middle school levels, in terms of the student government and student leaders. So I believe at Rosa and Carusi and Beck, or maybe not Carusi, but Beck, where they had some students that were there. They were delightful and very helpful. And they spent a lot of time asking me questions about what the BOE is, and I love to answer that. And we talked a lot about Beyonce. So it's pretty fun. So shout out to Michaela and Jay, Michaela from Beck and Jay from Carusi. But yeah, it's just really a fun time for me. I shared with some of the team that this is more of like a family reunion to me to some extent, because every school I go to, I know somebody there, or just reminded that I'm still connected to a lot of folks here. So it was a good time. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the rest of the week.
I will be next, and I apologize because I do have some other things besides back to school night that I have to talk about. So, but I do have some fun back to school nights. I did actually go to Stockton's, and Mr. Reardon was wonderful to talk to me and all the parents, and they even had some of the students there. But the one thing I want to thank them for is their flexibility. Mrs. Sugars will know that the lighting was not in because of the bond work, and they had to change their time so that it wasn't going to be so dark, and we didn't have to do gasoline. Isn't that what it was? Like gasoline, like lighting, like, lighting that they could use in the parking lot. So they were great with their flexibility of changing all the time. And so I want to thank Stockton and the parents and all the staff for being flexible with everything that's been going on with the bond. But it was wonderful to be there. And also I went to Johnson and saw Mr. Peltzman, and I honestly I didn't talk about Beyonce, but I came in thinking it was a Taylor Swift concert because there was a line around. I asked everybody, I'm like, are you on line for the Taylor Swift concert? Because there were so many people there and it was a huge line. And that was really great. And I also ended with East High School with everybody else. And actually, last year was the first year in 17 years that I didn't do a back to school night. So it was sort of nice being back one year I was like, took a breath, but now I'm back. So it was very nice actually and again, it is like seeing friends and teachers that you became friends with and the administrators. And it's just so wonderful to have all that energy. And I want to do a special shout out, which I think a lot of us did, to the PTAs, because making sure that everyone signs up and, but especially the CHSEPTA, the Cherry Hill Special Education PTAs, they have been at they've tried to, and I think they have made that, that goal to try to be at every single back to school night with their great volunteers. Anyone can join that. So anyone can join their PTs at their schools, but CHSEPTA is sort of like an umbrella organization for the entire district. So if you're interested, you can go onto their Facebook page or go onto the Zone PTA Facebook page, and they can direct you into any of the school information if you need it. So that was the back to school night. So I apologize, I have more, but there was an exciting thing that I went to at Rosa. Dr. Morton was there too. It was Mr. Charles Williams. He is a Cherry Hill parent who's had children go through the schools. And Dr. Morton actually taught some of his kids, right? And a wonderful, wonderful presentation. He is the president of the National Forensic Science president of American Academy of the Forensic Science. He was there speaking at Rosa for National Forensic Science Week with a focus on teaching the kids forensic science, women and people of color in forensic science. It was very interesting. It was a little gory at times, but that is to be expected. He was a great presenter. He had great energy. It was wonderful to be back at Rosa. Mr. Guy was great, and all of the teachers that we saw. One of my kids went to Rosa and I spent a lot of time there. So again, it was like coming back home, and it was wonderful to be there. And we hope he would love to do this yearly. He's a great presenter and he had a great PowerPoint. And then lastly, Mrs. Elmer Stratton and I sit on the Labor Management Collaborative, which we've spoken about before. We had our meeting past Friday, and they're starting to do their first real project, and it's going to be a look at school climate and culture, and they're going to be surveying all the staff. And then once they get that back at a later date, they're going to also be surveying the parents and students, and they're going to put all that together and start to look at that data and see where the weaknesses and the strengths are. And each of the schools will have their own team within their teams and look at their data that comes from that to see what they need to do to increase or better the school climate. And I think it's really such a great step to really see what the teachers and the staff feel like. They're even making sure that the maintenance crew and anybody, the educational assistants, everybody is going to be involved with this. So I think it's really wonderful. So we'll be giving you updates. Also, I want to thank Mr. Redfern, who is in our audience tonight. He gave us Putting Teachers First. It's a book by Brad Johnson, How to Inspire, Motivate, and Connect with Your Staff. All of the labor management, the LMC as we call it, is reading this, and it's really focused on a lot of positivity and how to create positive culture. One of the chapters is creating a culture of appreciation. So I think this is a wonderful, positive way to start a collaborative, and it's wonderful. And we appreciate the fact that the Board of Ed is involved and administration is coordinating with the staff. And, I really see great things going with this collaborative. So I think that is it. Thank you, Mrs. Stern.
All right. So I went to Horace Mann's back to school night I think it was last week. And same comments. I don't need to belabor it, but Dr. Cafagna put on a really nice night. Teachers were there welcoming parents to show them rooms, and PTA was there signing up new members. And it's a nice night. I was there, as a parent as well. And, it's always nice to kind of be able to see the environment that your children, talks about on a day-to-day basis, and meet the teachers and the staff who support them throughout the year. But yeah, it was just a really nice night. And as I said, Dr. Cafagna always he's always really warm and welcoming to all the families. And so it was a really wonderful night. Thanks.
It's great. Oh, Dr. Reed.
Sorry to ask to go twice, but I was gonna bring this up in old stuff, but decided it's probably better here. Because I wasn't here last board meeting to report out in strategic planning. So I thought I would just give a couple of comments on the meeting I attended for the sustainability committee. So they had their first meeting of the new school year. And I think it's important for me to say to the board, like, now's the time. A couple of board members have reached out to me early on saying this is something they'd be interested in. Now's the time where I think the sustainability committee could use some help. They need to kind of expand out their numbers to kind of get boots on the ground as they write the sustainability plan for the district. So this is also an opportunity for me to make sure Dr. Morton hears that too. Getting more people, just one of the challenges is going to be to put together a plan. They're going to have to kind of reach out to each one of the schools. And that could become a heavy lift if it's only going to be a few people on the committee. But if we can get more people involved that are interested in that, that would be great. So probably people could reach out to me, letting me know it's about sustainability, and I can forward people to Dr. Morales over at Rosa, who is acting as the sustainability committee chair. Also to our student BOE representatives, we could use your help as well, kind of getting the word out to students. If you guys want to connect us with your newspapers, anything to get, this is a great opportunity for high school students to get involved, because if you're involved in, if you care about environmental issues, climate issues, sustainability, energy saving practices, anything like that, this is an opportunity to contribute to your district in a pretty major way. And I know that sitting in that committee, the members of the committee are all very excited about the idea of having kind of students help run the process, lead the process. So that I just wanted to advocate for that to the board and to the board of BOE student reps. And if there are community members interested in helping out, I think obviously I don't know how we're going to build everybody into the committee. That's going to really be up to Dr. Morales and the other committee members. But I'd say now is the time to reach out and get involved, because they're just getting that ball rolling on figuring out how we're going to do the big task of getting a district-wide plan ready.
Great, thank you. And thank you, just all the board members made just a huge effort to get around to all these back to school nights. So appreciate, everybody participating the way everyone did. And appreciate being invited to all of them too, Dr. Morton. So, okay. All right. Now we go to our student representative reports, and we will start with Matt Rentazales from High School East.
All right, so to start, we're going to talk about academics. Recently, the National Merit semifinalists and commended students were honored. We had 3 semifinalists for National Merit, as well as over 25 commended scholars. And continuing on with the PSAT will be held October 18th for 10th and 11th graders. At the beginning of this year, the newly introduced reset forms were filled out by students, and it was a way for students to inform their teachers of their learning styles as well as their responses to certain stressors. Students who did not pass the NJSLA exam last year will have the opportunity to retest next week. Moving on to events, at the beginning of this year, we had Senior Sunrise, which was an opportunity for seniors to come together and see each other at the start of the year. We had breakfast, pastries, and drinks, and it was an opportunity to take photos and bond with people we've been spending the past 4 years with. Sadly, we could not really see the sunrise that well due to cloud cover. The activities fair was hosted during the LBs earlier this month, with over 100 clubs represented. Great opportunity for students to get involved, new students to see what there is to offered at East. As you all mentioned, back to school night was held last week. A great opportunity for parents to see what their teachers are planning for their students. We also had a superintendent student search committee meeting last week, which was an opportunity for East students as well as West students and the alternative high school students to give input on what they would like to see in the next superintendent. The faculty musical will be held on October 14th, which is 10 years since the last faculty musical was held. So it's a very exciting moment for the students and the faculty. Hokoween dance will be held on October 20th, followed by the homecoming football game on October 21st. For athletics, this Saturday, the boys and girls cross-country teams competed at the Six Flags Invitational race. And in the midst of the storms, the boys team managed to come in first at all three levels, and the girls teams took second at all three levels. And this Saturday, the annual soccer night in Cherry Hill will take place at the DeCou Sports Complex. The girls varsity soccer team will play West at 5:30, and the boys varsity soccer team will also play West at 7:30 p.m. In terms of extracurriculars, for the fall show, A Midsummer Night's Dream, castings have been posted and progress has begun. And for the Crimson show, which is an opportunity for underclassmen to get involved in theater in the theater department, that has also begun to work. And finally, peer leaders work to introduce freshmen and transfer students to the new school. It's a good way for these students to really get a bearing, have people to talk to about really accommodations as well as ways they can get involved in the school community. Also, I'm devastated to hear that the pool does not actually exist at East.
Matt, I mean, you're the youngest in your family to go to that high school, so I think you may know the truth. Thank you. Colin.
All right, starting off with oh God. Starting off with academics for the West Report. From Monday, August 28th to Wednesday, August 30th, West conducted their annual freshman orientation, where incoming freshmen enjoyed activities and a meal to introduce them to the culture of High School West. On Thursday, September 14th, West conducted a successful back-to-school night where parents interacted with teachers and staff. There, they gained information that will prepare them to support their children throughout the remainder of the year. On Thursday, September 21st, Washington and Jefferson College visited West. This marks just one of many colleges who will visit West as seniors begin to make commitments to their higher education. On Thursday, September 28th, parents of seniors are invited to an information session with West guidance counselors regarding Common App, Naviance, financial aid, and other relevant college application and admission information. On Friday, September 29th, an ASVAB, or Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, representative will come to West to speak with parents and students on the purpose of the ASVAB. Students can take the ASVAB as a means of joining the armed services or as a general graduation requirement. Moving on to arts, tomorrow, I'm happy to be a part of this group. West Catering, Fine Arts, 3D Arts, and Adaptive Art will take a field trip to Johnson's Locust Hill Farm in Jobstown. Each group is going with a purpose unique to their fields of practice. Fine Arts will be going to appreciate the sites to use in paintings. 3D Art will go to find organic shapes to recreate. And catering will go to bring home apples and pumpkins and other produce for our events. West Theater Department is currently holding auditions for their upcoming fall musical, A Christmas Story. And West Marching Band placed first in their division with a score of 79.88 at their first competition of the year in Williamstown. Moving on to athletics, West Girls Volleyball on September 21st recently organized a Spike Out Cancer game where all proceeds went to the Cooper Foundation, where funds benefit cancer research programs. Boys soccer is undefeated with a record of 6-0-2 with the latest win against Bishop Eustace last Thursday. Cross-country athletes had many personal best times at their past meet and report that their times are improving as the season progresses. There was a captain's lunch on Thursday, September 21st for all fall sports teams. On Thursday, September 21st, girls tennis won against Winslow 4-1. And on Friday, September 22nd, field hockey won against Williamstown 2-0. Moving on to our extracurriculars, many of our clubs are starting and holding interest meetings such as Mock Trial, Model UN, DECA, NHS, Aspects Literary Magazine, LGBTQ+ Allies, and the Bob Ross Art Club. We encourage students to get involved in the vast amount of activities West has to offer. Moving on to other notes, since the start of the school year, West has adopted a more structured homeroom and lunch schedule where students are required to attend one lunch and one homeroom. Students and staff have wide-ranging opinions on this issue and feel that there are both pros and cons to this new system. Students, teachers, and club advisors are committed to working with administration to ensure everyone's needs are met while keeping an open dialogue for ideas of future revisions to the system. And finally, the Principals Advisory Council met with Karen Shaw of HYA to talk about the main qualities they're looking for in a new superintendent.
Thank you. Such a thorough report. Really appreciate from both of you. And that topic about lunch is a high topic. That's been a frequent conversation among some of us. So working on it. And Bob Ross, I didn't know we had that club. So enjoy your trip tomorrow. All right. All right. We are going to our first public comment. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. The first public comment session is currently for board action items only, which are items 13 through 16. There will be a second public comment period for any school-related topic at the end of our meeting. If you are a student in the district, you may comment during this first public comment on any item school-related. So you are not restricted to have to go to second public comment. If you are a student, please, and you're online, please identify S after your name so that we may be sure to bump you to the head of the line and call on you first. Public comment. Sorry, if you would like to speak now, please identify the agenda item and clearly state your name and municipality. We will alternate between speakers here in the room and those who are online. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak, and the timer on the screen will indicate the amount of time you have remaining. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or are repetitive will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district specifically are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. Okay. After that mouthful, let's go to the room first. If there's anyone who'd like to speak during first public comment, please approach the podium. Okay. And I don't see anybody at the podium. I will go online. If there is anyone who'd like to speak online during this comment period, please raise your hand. Currently not seeing any hands. Okay. Looking in the room, there is someone approaching the podium.
I'd like the play-by-play. That's a new addition. Dr. Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. 17.1, just want to acknowledge Dennis Kablinger, Senior K, who was my Spanish teacher. When I was a student, Rosa is put in for his retirement. It's a huge loss to our community. I just want to give some highlights for those of you who have not had students go through Rosa, who have not had a chance to learn what he's done. His teaching Spanish in his class wasn't just about learning Spanish. He brought in all about Hispanic and Latino culture, including introducing us every year to the movie Selena, which talked about the musical impact of a major Hispanic artist who unfortunately was murdered, and then had us do a story about that. He was doing technology in school before there was technology in school. He would utilize his passion for videography to bring in and produce videos, therefore teaching you language through doing and seeing and showing versus just telling you. All these years later, when I was back in subbing at Rosa, I turned to him and go, I have one big regret. I didn't pay enough attention in your class. Had you told me now 20 years later that I should have paid attention in Spanish class, it would have been really good advice. that foreign language really matters. And he made a great way of making it accessible. He also had a juggling club. He did videography at Rosa. He just did everything possible to connect with students. One of the most popular activities that came later after my time at Rosa was Foreign Language Week, where we talk about celebrating our diverse learners and are coming from multiple different backgrounds, 70 different languages. For those who were an advisor in his class, for 1 week out of the year, he dedicated time for students to talk about their native language and their experiences, their culture, therefore creating a welcoming atmosphere. I could only wish that we can clone Senior K and have more of that be normative for us as teachers in the district. I wish him all the best. I'll hopefully try to get over and see him one more time before he departs and gets to enjoy hopefully a long and restful retirement. But I just really wanted to acknowledge that we're losing a really incredible educator from the Cherry Hill family to retirement and say thank you.
Okay. All right. I see no more hands, no hands raised online. So if there's anybody else in the room who'd like to speak during public comment, please approach the podium. If you could say your name, your municipality, and the action item you're speaking on, unless you are a student, in which case you may, a current student, which means you can speak on any topic.
Hi, my name is G Bellin. I'm a previous West student and hi. And I have a younger sister who goes to Clara Barton. And my family has asked me to come here today to ask a question in regards to the SAC program. We were
Okay,
wondering.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that
No, it's
my
okay.
time?
If you are you a current student in the district?
No, I'm a former student.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I am going to ask you just to hold it to the second
All
public
good,
comment,
all
just so
good.
we're consistent about our practices here.
No problem.
Thank
I was confused, but if this
That's
was for a
okay.
second.
It's confusing. I know. I especially when it's not a weekly thing that you're dealing with. Thank you. Okay. But definitely please stay for a second public comment. Okay. All right. Nobody else online. So we're going to close public comment at this time. I don't think I missed anybody. And we will move on to our acting superintendent comments.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stern. I'd like to take an opportunity to reintroduce our board candidates who are running for election, taking part in this year's Board of Education election. We actually have the candidates forum on October 1st, which is this Sunday at 7 p.m. It's going to be live streamed to the community, but just want to have an opportunity once again to recognize those who are running and who will be participating. If you are present in the room, please stand. If you are online, you can raise your hand. John Jack Brangan. I'm going to go through each name. Renee Shafane. Corinne Elmore Stratton. Kimberly Gallagher. Nicholas J. Gaudio Jr. Jennifer Sharman. And Miriam Stern. Thank you. Again, October 1st, this Sunday at 7 p.m. We'll have the BOE candidates forum. I don't really have many comments at this point. Just want to emphasize there is a great spirit of collaboration that exists throughout the district. I want to thank the Board of Education for its engagement and the collaborative effort in showing up to all of our back to school night events and the events that have taken place thus far. Your attendance and engagement at these events has been noticed and very much appreciated. It's been outstanding to see our families out and about at the schools. It's been described in here well. There is optimism, there's enthusiasm, there's a great energy. It's wonderful. As we move forward, the word that comes to mind to me today is just this idea of team. There's a team that, we're moving forward as. There's synergy with a team because a team looks to accomplish a common goal. And that's what it's all about. So, with the Board of Education and the faculty, the staff, the parents, our community, all of our different groups really come together to work as a team has been outstanding. It's been excellent to see. So great things are happening.
Thank you, Dr. Morton. Sorry for jumping the gun there. Okay, we are going to move on to our action agenda. So, Mrs. Winters, can you please move the CNI agenda?
Certainly, the superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 13.1, approval of attendance at conference and workshops for the 23-24 school year. 13.2, approval of out-of-district student placements for 21-22 and 22-23 school year. 13.3, approval of out-of-district student placement for 23-24 school year. 13.4, Brookfield Schools Educational Services Program. Do I have a second? Ms. Fleischer, are there any questions? Ms. Elmore Stratton?
Just a technical question, not technical, but on 13.1 for the conference, will we also be able to amend that later, even if it's voted on tonight, to add on the whoever's the director that's added in, if we get a grant? Just because the conference is preschool, right? Because it's NACI. So I don't know, once we vote on it, does that mean no one else can be added to it, or can we can amend it? Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elmore Stratton. Anyone else? Any questions? Ms. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, the voting is open. You may cast your votes. Motion carries.
Okay, we move on to business and facilities. Mr. Greenbaum, can you please move the BNF agenda?
Thank you. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following very long list. 14.1, approval of minutes, board working session, special action meeting minutes, and executive session minutes dated August 8th, 2023. 14.2, approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes dated August 22nd, 2023. 14.3, financial reports. 14.4, resolution for the award of transportation. 14.5, approval of Cherry Hill, McKinney-Vento DCP and P students going out of district for the 2022-2023 school year. 14.6, acceptance of donations. Do I have a second? Mr. Rude, thank you. Any questions? Mrs. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, I need to abstain from 14.3, please.
I need to abstain from 14.1 since I wasn't at that meeting.
And I need to abstain from 14.2. Thank you.
I was also not at the August 8th meeting. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. It was a long time ago. I need to abstain from 14.1.
Ms. Sugars, I need to abstain from 14.2.
Do we have enough for the motion? Yes, Ms. Girlfriend? Motion carries?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Make sure we're on point. Oh, sorry. If you don't need this, you're good. Okay, okay. All right, now we move on to Mrs. Elmore Stratton. Can you please move the HR agenda?
Superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 15.1, termination of employment certificated. 15.2, appointment certificated. 15.3, appointments non-certificated. 15.4, leaves of absence certificated. 15.5, leaves of absence non. 15.6, assignment salary change non-certificated. 15.7, other compensation certificated. 15.8, other compensation non-certificated, and then 15.9, approval of new and revised job descriptions. Do I have a second? Ms. Fleischer, and any questions? All right, Ms. Sugars, take it away.
You may cast your votes. Motion carries.
Okay, and we move on to policy and legislation. Mrs. Fleischer, can you please move the P&L agenda?
Thank you, Mrs. Stern. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. 16.1, the reading of first policies, which are P2419 school threat assessment teams, P5513 care of school property, P8550 unpaid meal charges, outstanding food charges. 16.2, second reading of policies, P2770 religion in schools, P5310 health services, P520 immunization, P7440 school district security. 16.3, approval of harassment, intimidation, bullying hearing decision. 16.4, resolution for recognition of week of respect. 16.5, resolution for the recognition of School Violence Awareness Week. Do I have a second? Dr. Rude, any questions? Being none, Mrs. Sugars, can you open the voting? Thank you.
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm going to vote no on 16.3.
Ms. Sugars, I need to abstain on 16.3 as I wasn't there for that.
Mrs. Sugars, I also need to abstain on 16.3. I was not here last meeting.
Motion carries.
Okay, and now we go to strategic planning, and I believe there are no items to be voted on.
Not yet.
Okay. All right, and that takes us to new business. Is there any new business to discuss this evening? Okay, board members, seeing none. Takes us to old business. Is there any old business to discuss this evening? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I had an opportunity last handful of days to go over the meeting from 2 weeks ago. I watched the video of because we had what I thought was a good and certainly important conversation, all business that I raised. But there were a couple things that I left out, and I just want to make sure that I clarify that. First was I didn't mean to mention this 2 weeks ago. We talked a little bit about the importance of social emotional learning curriculum and the fact that both of the districts that we are currently, that we continue to be compared with out in the ether, Morristown and Haddonfield, are also very positive on SEL education. I failed to mention, and all of you can take a look at this as well, because I found it also very interesting that SEL is one of the Haddonfield Public Schools' 3 most important strategic goals. In fact, they have their own dedicated Twitter/X feed, specifically because they believe so strongly in the importance of SEL education, and that's at HSDSEL. So, I took a look at it. I found it, very interesting and helpful. So just another indication of just how important that school district feels SEL is. And I'm thankful again to Dr. Morton, the administration, all the teachers here that also emphasize the importance of SEL education here in Cherry Hill. So there was also a conversation. The conversation focused on Morristown, Haddonfield, and comparisons with Cherry Hill and standardized testing scores. So, and I want to go over that again. We've already talked about it, debunked the fact that we just are not those demographically, financially, socioeconomically, we're not those districts. We are, however, very, very similar to Maple Shade. So in looking at Maple Shade's demographics, strikingly similar to Cherry Hill's, particularly strikingly similar to the west side of Cherry Hill. And that is true across all demographic areas. The numbers that I have been looking at, and by the way, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I'd encourage all of you on the board as well, and anyone who has concerns about scores to do the same. All this data is available. It's all public and it's all clear, both from the U.S. Census Department, New Jersey Department of Education, and School Digger. All three of them, all three agree as well. So, you know, when seeing numbers, you know, there are those in the community concerns that jump to conclusions that are, you know, that standardized test scores are the result of some issue with the district, and that's just simply not the case, at least in the numbers that I've seen. So I want to talk about some of those. You know, I think it's important for all of us to understand if we see something that doesn't make sense to us, well, why is that? Like, let's look at the numbers and let's try and understand, you know, what's happening. So I did that. And so I would just bring that to the table. And first of all, just to make it clear, so, you know, I'm not making these numbers up. Maple Shade School District, you know, is very, very, very similar to us, much closer to us than either Haddonfield or Morristown. Their standardized test scores, and again, scores are not, they're a small part, at least for me, they're a small part of what a student is and what student success is. They are important for certain things, certainly, but they don't tell the whole picture. That said, you know, we know that that's kind of all that some programs can look at. So it's important to still keep them in mind. But what's more important for me is understanding if the numbers are not what they were, say, 10 or 20 years ago, why not? Right? Isn't it our job to try and understand what can we do to identify supports for our students, to put them in the best position for them to succeed, whatever that is, whether that's post-secondary education, career and technical schools, military or otherwise. Demographics tell a lot here, right? One of the things that I was able to see, and I would encourage you all to look for the same data, there is across all districts in New Jersey, especially in South Jersey, a direct inverse relationship between standardized test scores and the percentage of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. It is a stark inverse relationship. It goes back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think, that having financial means provides advantages for some families that other families just simply don't have. That's where we come in, I think, as a district. I think that's where we can help our administrators sort of, you know, identify what can we as a board do, what can administrators and teachers do to help identify the types of supports that we can bring to students who maybe don't have the same kind of economic means that some others that other students have. That doesn't tell all the picture. It's a big thing as far as I can see, and we talked about that 2 weeks ago. But we also have to recognize that not everybody sees things such as standardized testing the same way. There are those in the community who do value it as you know, and let's support them, which I think we do. There are those that maybe don't put that same kind of emphasis on whether or not their particular student does great on a standardized test. That is a cultural and demographic reality, and it does impact overall scores, right? Because we're a large, diverse district, and for me, you know, I look at that as, and I've said it many times before, purely a positive. How can we use that vibrant diversity to promote awareness across the district from other students and other cultures? But at the same time, how can we better identify those groups of students that need a little bit more support? You know, what are the most effective supports? How can we deliver them most effectively to wherever they are, right? We talk about this east side, west side. If there are more students on one side, if there are more students, you know, on the west side that, you know, need a little more help, maybe there's more transient students, maybe there's more students, and we know that's the case. Where there are more English language learners. They need different types of supports. They're just as smart, they're just as capable of succeeding as anyone else. And I think it's our job to understand that. rather than looking at a number and making an accusation, which is outrageous and oftentimes in social media offensive, it's our job to look at numbers and try and understand why they are what they are, see what the components are. Now, let's get to work. So, you know, that's why I brought it up 2 weeks ago. You know, not surprisingly, there were those that seized on that with an outrageous narrative that I found offensive, that we somehow are okay, we're lowering our standards. Absolutely false, completely offensive, completely untrue, completely unsupported by data, as are all of these ridiculous theories. So, you know, I can do this all night. I can do this every meeting. And frankly, I'm not going anywhere. So I will if I need to, but it's just that important to me to bring to the table that, you know, we do have work to do, but the data, you know, will help us do that. But no student at any of our schools should feel that we put less emphasis on academic achievement because we don't. No staff member should think that it's okay, that, you know, that the numbers aren't what they were 20 years ago. There are tremendous demographic and cultural reasons for that, tremendous. But those tremendous reasons are a huge positive for us overall as a district. We just need to find the best ways to support as many students as we can and understand that, you know, a support for one group may not work for another group. It's never going to be one size fits all. It's not going to be 2 or 3 sizes. And we need to be adaptive. We need to be creative. And I just want to bring that back to the table because I think there was a little more that needed to be said. And, you know, maybe this is going to be a regular part of our agenda. I kind of hope not. But what should always be a regular part of our thinking, I think, is how can we always find the best ways to address all of our students and help them find whatever that success is for them. And, you know, again, I'll open it. I'm bringing this up because it's important to me. If anyone wants to chime in, please do. But, you know, don't feel you have to. Yes.
I would just say I would be totally down for a mayor moment added to the agenda underneath that title, if necessary.
I'd like to, you know, hopefully my kids could also be down for the same sort of thing. They don't necessarily take kindly to these.
Just want to make note, you know, not everyone accesses our agenda, but in our agenda tonight, we just approved pay for tutoring. We approved for pay for tutoring for homework club. And, you know, we had a presentation on high dosage tutoring, which is a best practice and supported by data. I mean, I think we continue to move forward, you know, under the, you know, educational leadership of our district, who is bringing us these, you know, really important educational, their expertise to best practices. How do we help our students with achievement? And tutoring is one of them. And we want to make sure that all our students have access to it as much as possible. We learned tonight how sometimes, you know, budgetarily that can be challenging, but we're doing it. So along the lines of what you're saying, I think it's, you know, it's one of the ways, you know, it's from all the other ways that we do it. This is even additional resources. So it's good stuff. Thank you. Other old business? I just have a few items. This is the time of year when you mentioned the topic of free and reduced lunch. It's a really important topic because it's a way that our country recognizes that eating is an important part of being a child and growing and being able to ready to learn. And many of us who are raising kids we know the cost of groceries is high. So, you know, there is a program in place through the federal government, and the state actually has raised the income limits so that more students will qualify for free and reduced lunch. We know sometimes there are barriers to filling out the application. but it's really, really important that we all continue to promote and encourage families to fill out the application, even if they're not sure if they'd qualify. It's worth filling out. Back to school night, there was a table, I think, at every school, if I'm not mistaken, with the applications. It's online. So it's really important we fill it out. And I was going to ask Mrs. Sugars, I'll put you on the spot for a minute, if you would just reiterate again what you've done before. Some of the, the other secondary benefits when families fill out the applications to our schools. Obviously, the most important is that students get free or reduced, breakfast and lunch for those who qualify. But if you could also speak to why it's important, especially this time of year, and what deadline we're coming up to.
It also can benefit families because they can get reduced student participation fees. In addition, it benefits the district because the higher our numbers are, the more apt we are to qualify for grant funding, for Title I funding. So that's very important as well. And our count is taken every year on October 15th. That's done across the state. So that's our date to, if you're going to fill it out, you can certainly fill it out at any time during the course of the year. But in order for the district to count those numbers in their official account is October 15th is the day that we use. So, and a lot of times I think, unfortunately, families don't realize that they need to fill out an application annually. Sometimes I think that they carry over from year to year. So we have tried very hard to reach out to our current families that qualify to try to make sure that they fill out an application again.
Thank you, Mrs. Sugars. And I recently learned, and I've shared this with some folks, that I spoke with a family where the single parent was out of work for a while and had applied and qualified, has now returned to work. But because of that application, that family's college-age child also ended up qualifying for some financial support that they wouldn't have qualified for had they not been approved. So there's just far-reaching benefits, obviously, for our students and their families. And also, additionally, it's a recognition of our district for funds and grants that we, benefit those students who might have other needs. So just really, really important. And I always ask the PTA for your help in getting the word out. Some of our PTA folks are here tonight. Some are online. So thank you, for all your support with that. The other piece I just want to mention, and I'm happy the student reps are here to hear me again plug we are in our final week of our superintendent search survey. We would love to see a higher level of participation from students and from families on the survey, as well as teachers. So if there are any members of collective bargaining units who are representative in our room, if we are any family members, if we have any, basically everybody in this room who lives in Cherry Hill or who represents in Cherry Hill, we are really trying to boost participation in our superintendent search survey, which closes October 1st. So if you have not filled out the survey, if you know people who are eligible to fill out the survey, please assist us in sharing it far and wide. And then we can all say that we've participated in stakeholder engagement, big topic. So please help us with that. Thank you. We've had a lot of groups, and I think the last forum is tomorrow night. Thank you. Tomorrow night is our last open focus group forum. It's virtual, and all that information can be found on our district website. So thank you to those who participated, and please continue to do so. Okay, that is all I have for business. So anybody else have any old business? Okay, we will go to second public comment. And we would love for anybody who'd like to speak to please approach the podium. We'll start in the room. I will reread our usual preamble to public comment. We do ask people to state their name and municipality. You can come on up. It's okay. I promise I'll try not to take too long. You'll be given 3 minutes and the timer on the screen will indicate your time. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums. Statements which demean individual community members or groups or which are irrelevant to the operations of Cherry Hill School District or repetitive will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. And we will start in the room. So thank you for our earlier false start. Here we go.
Hi, sorry. Sorry about the initial confusion. Again, my name is G, a previous Cherry Hill High School West student, current sibling to a current kindergartner at Clara Barton Elementary School. I'm here today to ask about the SAC program. My little sister is on the wait list for SAC, and I think my mom said that she was like one of 15 students that was left on the wait list for the SAC program. Our family was a little disappointed as we've had to really kind of change a lot of our work schedules around to kind of work with her not being able to get into SAC. So I was wondering if there's any plans to kind of expand the SAC program in the future, and if so, what will that look like? Especially since earlier there was a comment about the after-school tutoring being maybe tied in with the SAC program. It'd be cool to find out if SAC's going to be expanded to more students in the future and what that'll kind of look like. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. And now we will go online. And the first hand that I'm seeing raised is Sarah Jocelyn.
Hi, this is Sarah Jocelyn from Cherry Hill. I would like to know what the status is, if we have heard back on the preschool grant program. I didn't hear it mentioned at this particular meeting. I know that it had been delayed in its announcement, but it's an important item to know the status. I also recall having attended a curriculum and instruction committee meeting that the first day of school, there was an extended time to have all of the children's processed in the building. And of course, the preschool all require, those that are on buses, and I was told there were 20 buses, require child seats. And so I'm just checking to see if the processing is going easier, if there's been a way to manage the combination of buses and parents dropping off children, because that's an important safety item relative to the school district. We, of course, are concerned about children at all ages, but the preschool was one that I was particularly interested in. I have a granddaughter who is just who's out around that age. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we go back to the room. If there's anybody in the room who'd like to speak.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about the very hot topic of Cherry Hill West High School lunch and homeroom.
If you could please state your name and your municipality that you live in.
I'm Jim Shiner and I'm from Cherry Hill, 40 years in this lovely town. I've had a lot of kids go through the school system and grandkids, so here I am. My granddaughter's now in West, and she's talked to me about the lunch program and what happens during that period. You've got basically a 40-minute period where you have homeroom and lunch. And she sits in a homeroom for 20 minutes and they do absolutely nothing. There's nothing happening in those rooms whatsoever. She said it'd be great to be able to go to a club or do something different, but that they're required to stay in the homeroom. Looking at the social atmosphere after COVID, These kids really, really need to be able to interact with each other. It's very important. The second thing is lunch. You know, you're feeding half of the school, 700 students in 20 minutes. Get online. Just think about it. You know, even if you only have half of those, 350 kids on a line for lunch, how long is that going to take? I happen to know, talked to a couple of people, it takes about 17 minutes to get through the lunch line. 17 minutes out of 20, that leaves you 3 minutes to eat lunch. CDC, the National Institute of Health as well, both recommend 20 minutes of sitting time to eat your lunch correctly. They show that nutrition is dropped terribly if you drop below those numbers. You know, you talked earlier about how important food is in the school. And yes, it is. Nutrition is extremely important. And if you're not giving the kids time to be able to eat a lunch, that's going to definitely affect a lot of things, you know, scores, their attention span, their attitude, you know, everything's going to be changed. So I think that's something that needs to really be looked at carefully. You know, I'm glad to hear that from West that they're starting to clubs and everything like that. Thanks for providing that information. And I know that that hopefully that will help some of the things. But I still think that the 40-minute time period for being able to get a whole school through lunch may be a little bit tight, and especially just 20 minutes for lunch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we go to the line, John Howlett.
Good evening, John Howlett, Cherry Hill. Just want to let the town and the board and the district know how frustrated and disappointed I am with the district. As we start a new school year, there are no autism programs at Carusi Middle School or on the entire west side of town for Cherry Hill. Meanwhile, there are 4 programs at 2 schools on the east side, with 2 at Rosa and 2 at Beck. This is not fair, reasonable, or acceptable to the Cherry Hill community or the children who live on the west side of town. The district claims to promote diversity and inclusion, yet the west side is less diverse without an autism program for the middle school age children. The inclusion opportunities are also extremely limited for special needs children who have not gone to elementary school with any of their peers and go on the total opposite side of town. It's also very concerning when some children in the autism program have a middle school, a home-based middle school, yet children on the west side, since there's no program at Carusi, they're told you don't have a home middle school. So how you could tell some kids in certain parts of town you do, and other kids in other parts of town, again, does not seem fair, reasonable, or equitable. So I would really ask the board and the district to review that. Children on the autism spectrum have difficulties with communication and making connections and friends. Sending children across town where they have no friends and no familiar faces is setting them up for failure. I ask the district again to please review these programs and be fair and equitable to all of Cherry Hill. The West Side needs and deserves an autism program in the middle school level. A district of our size with 10,000 children, one of the top 15 size-wise districts in the state, and who claims to be an exceptional district, must do better. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I also want to bring the attention of the board. I talked to one family on the west side. They have 3 children in middle school. Each child is going to a separate middle school, one to Carusi, one to Rosa, one to Beck. I don't know how and why this could ever happen, but when I talked to this family who was devastated by this, they said, oh, we're not the only one. So again, how in the world can this happen in our district? It's just not fair. It's not reasonable. I think Mr. Mayor said it before, we need to be adaptive and creative, right? We redistrict these middle schools, but these are not concrete set in stone. It's not fair to have a family, you have 3 children, they want to be involved. They want to help their family, their kids, and be with them. And they're at 3 different middle schools. I mean, it's completely and totally unacceptable. So again, please review these programs. Thank you very much for your time and for reviewing these critical issues for our community. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, we go back to the room if anyone would like to speak at the podium.
Hi, it's squeaky. Christy Bedron, and I'm speaking about the Cherry Hill West lunch as well.
I'm sorry. Could you also say your municipality?
Oh,
just
Cherry
for
Hill.
Our
Sorry.
procedure. Thank you.
Thought I did that. All right, so I'm speaking about the new homeroom and lunch schedule. I understand that there's something needed to be changed, but I don't think this is the way it is. These are my concerns. How students have a chance to meet with teachers. If they're required to be in a homeroom, there's a lot of confusion on how to get a pass, an educational pass from the teacher. My second concern is that this homeroom is literally a waste of time. My daughter literally just told me today, all they did was they went in, they sat down, they took attendance, and everyone went on their phones and everyone talked. It was nothing. The teacher literally sat at the desk, twiddling her thumbs on her phone, waiting to leave. Most importantly, as other people have said, if my child has to get to the cafeteria, which you also have to figure out where their homeroom is based on their cafeteria. They get down to the cafeteria, they get their food, they have to find a place to eat. They have to scarf this food down their throats and then get to another class. So I know my daughter has come home with a decently full lunchbox the days that she actually brings her lunch because she hasn't had a chance to re-eat it. And I have friends of hers that are getting snacks because that is all they can get, because that is the fastest way to get food and to get back to class. So I know that there's a change, and I appreciate the board hearing my concerns. And I hope that we can make a change that would be better for the staff and for the teachers as well. I mean, and the students. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we go back to the line, and Ann Einhorn.
And I'm on Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I want to go back to referencing Mr. Mayor's comments of earlier. We're a diverse district with students that have diverse needs. And the majority of the students on the West Side are in Title I schools. And you need to concentrate on Title I schools. These are the kids and the staff that need the most help in having a successful school day. And while I'm at it, I keep hearing, how can the students learn if there are angry behaviors that take away from the classroom? And are we supplying the teachers when they not only seek help, but need help? Are we taking care of the very staff that needs to support the kids in their classroom? And what are we going to do to help them? We can't succeed if the teacher cannot constructively teach their class. The high school schedules are not working. And quite frankly, there isn't any research to my knowledge to back the schedules that we're currently using. So that's maybe another indicative factor as to why, quote unquote, we're not doing so well on standardized tests. It's not the first time you've heard me speak about supporting the staff. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know how many of the principals in our district last taught in a classroom. Maybe each of them should teach one classroom in a school that has the most difficulty, and see what the teachers have to face each and every day, and their fellows and the students that have to react and be with other students that may have issues that we could support in a different way. Can't succeed if class is always being disruptive. We can't succeed if kids in high schools are still allowed to wander the halls, which they are. So just take it for what it's worth. Been around a long time, but right now we're still post-COVID and adding 3 coaches in the last budget, et cetera, and counting on, the state funding, which I am grateful for 3rd and 4th graders. But how are we going to support the students and the staff so that they can feel better about their classroom, they can feel better about their school, and that we as a community can feel better about our schools? Thank you.
Okay, can we go back to the room? If there's anyone who'd like to speak in the room, please approach the podium.
Rick Short, Cherry Hill. I've got to agree with callers 2, 3, and of course, Miss Einhorn. Semi-genius. Miss Einhorn's comments, I'm totally with it. We should be looking out for the best of our children for better academics. I want to go back to the 16 times we can't even do the Pledge of Allegiance right in a school board tape, in a YouTube tape. I don't understand it. For the last 16 times, we can't hear the Pledge of Allegiance when board meetings open. So I wanted to do it right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I hope you can open the meeting like that and you can actually hear it on YouTube. Next up, I want to talk about the job performance of Dr. Morton and what he's going to be coming into. In July of this year, Governor Murphy said we are in a culture war. And I agree with the governor, because the governor's coming in and pushing climate change study, DEI, SEL, student wellness, all these academic things that have nothing to do that will make our students better. And at the beginning of his taking office, Dr. Morton, after he said thank you, the first thing he talked about was how important diversity is. Ladies and gentlemen, you can say diversity 2 million times. I agree, we should have diversity. God giveth thee, we have diversity in Cherry Hill. God, do we need to talk any more about diversity? Then at a graduation speech at Cherry Hill West, Dr. Morton, again, diversity. How many more times do we have to talk about diversity? I don't get it. All we are just following in is just this constant, what do you want to call it? Culture, indoctrination, whatever you want to call it. Yes, we want diversity. Now, next is restorative justice. Everything's about restorative justice. We're doing restorative justice in Cherry Hill schools. 17 people died in Parkland, but no, we know how to do it. We can do it better. And it all comes down to what's next coming down the road. Oh, school climate. Oh, yes. The Temple people. Oh, the Temple people, not Temple, I'm sorry. Rutgers experts are all pushing climate for the school. This is not climate change. Now we move on to climate change, where we want to form individual groups in each school, and we want to promote climate change. This has nothing to do with academics, again, over and over again.
Short.
Thank you.
Go back to the line, and the hand raises Panina Mintz.
Good evening, Dr. Panina Mintz, Cherry Hill. Thank you for taking my call. I'd like to second and agree with Ann Einhorn comment that you cannot teach in a classroom with this disruptions. There's 2 more issues that I have with Mr. Mayor's contention that because of demographics that we have low academic scores. This is highly insulting for families of lower means that their kids are excelling in school. It doesn't mean that because you're poor, you're underachieving academically. This is bigotry towards poor people. I am highly insulted by that. Secondly, with social emotional learning, this is psychological emotional manipulation of children. It does not have anything to do with academics. Actually, it aims to eviscerate their cognition and critical thinking skills. So you're teaching them how to emote and the opposite of thinking. So you're basically uneducating those kids. It has no place in the schools. My main point for the call today is 2 policies that are on the books that have to be banned by this board. I'm asking respectfully for policy 2100, based on this week's revelations of Dr. Ibram Kendi. You need to go and review all your assumptions about all this so-called unresearched that he has done to justify bringing this devastating policy and divisive policies into our schools. I implore the board to immediately ban policy 2100. Secondly, policy 5756. It is not law. It's not a law in New Jersey. It's also in direct violations of your policy 5751. Also, it's in direct violation of the U.S. Constitution, New Jersey Constitution, anti-discrimination laws, federal and state laws. I would implore you to ban policy 5756 immediately. Lastly, you need to consider the impact on the privacy of girls that are attending Cherry Hill schools and the use of bathrooms. Every girl is basically stripped of her rights for privacy by not being able to safely use the bathrooms in Cherry Hill schools. I implore you to restore the protections of girls' privacy in Cherry Hill schools' bathrooms. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the room. If there was anyone who'd like to speak, please approach the podium. Thank you.
Steve Redfern, 323 Berkshire Avenue. I don't even know where to start, honestly. So here it goes. I've heard comments about behaviors in the schools. I've heard changing the high school schedule. Then I hear climate and culture survey. Oh, here we go again. Part of the work that's being done, and I thank Mrs. Stratton, I thank Mrs. Fleischer, Dr. Morton for joining us in the Labor Management Collaborative, is to get a peek into what's happening in the schools. Climate and culture. What's the staff feel? What's the staff seeing? What are the parents feeling? What are the students feeling and seeing? The only way to fix things is to do projects like this so that we get feedback. Is the high school schedule need a change? Perhaps it does. We haven't looked at it for a while. Are there behaviors that are occurring in schools right now that no one has an answer for? Absolutely. Teachers seek out the answers, and the people that are experts don't have the answers right now. Why is that? Maybe we can take a look at society, and we can look at social media, and we look at things that have become acceptable in society. And who sees these things? Kids. And they start to feel like certain things are acceptable. It's so frustrating to be in my position, to be a parent, a community member at times. I did not grow up here. I moved here. Sometimes I thank myself that I didn't grow up here, because it's got to be a tough lift at times, isn't it, Mr. Mayor? For you to hear and see what you expressed again tonight. Mrs. Fleischer, same thing. Anybody else who grew up here. It's really become sad at times. And I hear all these good things at smaller districts and little districts, and we're doing this, we're doing that. My kids moved there. They love it so much here. Part of the reason is that they probably don't have 10 social media pages where everybody can chime in about what they think should be done. I don't know if I'll speak again, because I think I covered it all tonight. But most of you know me well enough. I'm vested in this community. I'm vested in this town. My wife is vested. My kids love where they go. My son loves West. My daughter does Cruzy. I'll just end it there.
Thank you. Okay, we go back to the line, and Harvey Vasquez is next.
Yes, hello. Harvey Vasquez, Cherry Hill. The reason I'm calling in today is to discuss third-party services for special education. Though I understand it is the district's priority to select the contractors that provide these services, and also to decide whether or not any individual employee of those contracted services are a good fit for the child receiving these services. That may be true for most services. However, when it relates to medical services, parents play a large role in the decision-making process as to who may be a good fit for their child. During the selection process for nursing, it is the parent's responsibility to interview the nurses available from that agency to serve their child prior to commencing services. This is done to make sure the nurses are aware of all the challenges they may face with their child, as well as an opportunity for the nurses to ask questions related to their child's care plan. Well, the reason I mention this is because our family faced a situation where our nurse was replaced due to the district's perception that the nurse was interfering with school process, even though a clear reason to this person's dismissal was never provided to us as parents. This caused our son to miss the entire extended school year, and so far what has transpired of this school year due to lack of nursing, and still our son remains home due to the difficult process of interviewing and selecting a new nurse. ESSI is not a summer school. Instead, it is an extension of the curriculum to avoid regression of children with special needs. I would think we as parents in the special education community deserve to understand the protocols required by the school from their service providers and whether these protocols may conflict with those of the service providers themselves. Nursing priority is the health and well-being of their patients first. Now we as parents face the situation of an autistic child having to readapt to a new nurse, a task that does not come easy, and add the fact that due to missing all of these school hours, regression is imminent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we go back to the room. If there's anybody else in the room who'd like to speak, please approach the podium.
Alana Harris, Cherry Hill. When I don't wear my glasses, I'm blind, and I sit in a regular seat where there are TVs over here that aren't on. So when there are presentations on the front board, I can't see them. If the TVs could be looked at to turn them back on for when presentations are happening, that would be great. Second, one of my children attends the Malberg Early Childhood Center, and as I emailed all of you on Friday about some of the issues that we've been facing at the Malberg Early Childhood Center this year, according to the district website, the Malberg Early Childhood Program is a comprehensive preschool that services both typically developing and special needs children, ranging in ages from 3 to 5 years old. The goal of our program is to provide our students with an exceptional early childhood learning experience. The program services over 350 children, 40% of which are children with special needs. There are 40% of the children at Malberg, according to the website, that are special needs, but they're not currently being serviced by the district in the way that they have been in the past because of the extension of full day pre-K. Specifically, the day is now 6 hours instead of 5.5 hours. And that comes with mandatory rest time from the state of New Jersey. And so there's a loss of learning time because those that were already in full day preschool last year had 5.5 hours of what I consider educational instruction. And this year they have 6 hours of educational instruction minus 45 minutes according to the schedule that you were presented on, but it's really 50 minutes now that the schedule is implemented in the schools. So that's 20 minutes of lost instructional time every day compared to what was received last year. Second, I understand that the district is required to take the lowest bid of anyone who puts out a bid. And so the bid for transportation was removed from Hillman's bus service this year and awarded to Maytav. And looking back on the August 8th agenda, it seems that the reason Maytav received that award was because they offered 17.5% discount for bulk bid of 10 routes versus Hillman only offering 5%. And if those weren't factored in, Hillman would have been a cheaper bus bid. And with the new bus routes, the driver, the very first day she met me, didn't ask to see my ID, didn't help my child off the bus. The aide did not help my child off the bus. He was taking a little bus. He's now on a big bus because the little bus needs to be fixed, and he almost fell off the stairs. And today a new adult picked him up. And although he recognized that
Yeah,
adult,
Mrs. Yaros, I'm sorry, your time is
the
up.
adult,
If you could please email us, feel free to email us.
the adult's
Thank
ID
you.
wasn't checked.
Okay. And we go back to the line and the initials LA. If you could please state your full name and your municipality.
Hello, my name is Jack Edward Neary. I am currently a student at Cherry Hill High School East. I will just like to say, hearing parents, students speak tonight about the changes at Cherry Hill High School West saddened me. I was at Cherry Hill High School West for my freshman year and start of my sophomore year. I feel like people have been quite disingenuous about why there has been changes and not completely honest. During my time, there was many fights. It is not the students' fault. And I hate to hear students feel like they're blamed, that they are not cared for or feel like they are valued. It makes me horribly upset. That change was clearly implemented because instead of understanding why these fights happen or why there are interactions that are so negative happening, we focus on how to control it. These students feel like they are in a prison, not a school here to learn. During my time, I've heard students feel like they said they don't feel valued. They feel like their teachers have given up on them. That I've even heard a student tell, not even tell me directly, overhearing was sad enough, say that they feel like their teachers just hate them. A serious change needs to happen because this isn't sustainable, not for the children, not for parents, and not for teachers. Something's got to give. Something needs to change, and I hope it changes soon. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to the room if anyone would like to speak at the podium.
Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. Want to just finish up where my wife was going on that. I also want to add at least two buses from Malbork ECC arrived almost nearly an hour after scheduled delivery time of their students. We're talking about the most vulnerable students in our district being brought home. So for example, my son who's at Malbork, we usually got off the bus at 3:50. He got off the bus at 4:50. We're talking about students who are on the spectrum, who have other disabilities potentially, who are 40% of the student population sitting around for nearly an hour at school. Teachers get off at 3:45. They should not have to be required to be around there. What were the services getting and what trauma now has been inflicted on these younger students, many of which are quasi-verbal, nonverbal, and don't yet have the words to express what is going on. I am very much a proponent for extended education, but I very much feel the rollout of extended preschool could not have gone any worse. And I really think we need to go back to the table. And I've said it here before. Parents and caregivers have been excluded from that process time and time again. You know me, I am all about an inclusive process and bringing people to the table. The fact that parents have not yet been involved in this process from the very start of it has set us in a position of not being successful. In relation to the policies that a certain speaker brought up, I encourage you to keep them. We are talking about creating a safe space for our students. The only people who seem to be bothered by this are people who went to school 40, 30, 50 years ago in a whole different world. We can kind of ignore that and put that to the side, and we're going to work on educating on them. But for you, the students, being an educator in the classroom, I know how important those safe spaces are and are needed. I can tell you my students right now, in the last week, I have learned about several of them who have lost a parent during the pandemic, lost a parent before the pandemic, are suffering from tremendous things. I've had conversations in the classroom. You need to tell me when you need to call timeout. Students who have other things going on in their lives will not be successful. By us acknowledging the social and emotional needs, we are now treating a student as a whole person. When we treat a person as a whole person, they are more destined to be successful because we're not just treating them. We walk in school with academics and you know your ABCs, no, that. No, that's what we did in the past, and we saw how poorly that went. Sure, the top could succeed, but everyone else fell off to the wayside. Your job around the table is to continue to advocate and make sure that we're seeing students and staff as their whole people. We all went through a trauma. Staff is feeling it. We all are looking at a new world, and still we're warning that 2019 will never exist again in the world of education. In 2019, we talked about wanting to have a 1-to-1 ratio. No one has dreamed 3 or 4 years later from that we'd have a 1-to-1 ratio. That was a pipe dream from us in the room back then. But that is how quickly education has evolved. And those around the table who have chosen to run need to adapt to that and learn and ask the questions to the administration. Bring in the new superintendent who has a vision for that. Ask the ones who are currently leading us, what is your vision? How do we adapt for a new education? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No new hands online. I'm looking in the room. If anybody else would like to approach the podium. And any new hands online? Don't see any new hands online. Okay. I will close public comment. And I will now move to acting superintendent comments.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stern, and thank you to everyone for your comments this evening. It's great for us to be able to have a discourse and to have an open public dialogue where individuals can share perspective, they can share their opinions, they can share their belief systems. For me, I think, you know, it's very important for us, critically important, if we are going to truly solve the deep challenges that we are facing and come up with solutions, we're going to have to do it together. Division, divisiveness, comments that separate us only pull us apart. Division separates. Addition, unity brings people together. And when we come together, we can solve anything. And that's something I truly believe. Unity is what we need. Togetherness is what we need. Coming together and discussing things in an amicable, peaceful fashion and coming up with the best solutions possible is what it's all about for us. Just a couple reminders. In reference to SAC, we've heard some very positive news. SAC has hired a number of high school students. I'm going to throw out a plug to encourage our high school students who may be interested in working. SAC is hiring. SAC is hiring. Opportunities with SAC allows for SAC to service more children. Really, it's a simple thing of being able to attract staffing to the school so that more children can be served. But again, if you're in high school, I know Ms. Stern gave a plug at our last meeting. I'm going to give one now again. High school students, great opportunity for you if you're looking to be employed. SAC is hiring. The New Jersey Department of Education continues to work through notifications and notification processes for preschool expansion. We are hoping to be able to announce something very, very soon and to be able to disseminate information as we are guided in that process. I encourage you. Our administrators, again, are open. They will seek to engage in conversation with you about concerns that may be faced. There were a number of questions, a number of comments today that were generated about lunch, comments generated about the schedule in general. I can tell you firsthand knowledge, administrators are looking at the schedule. It's a continual thing where they're analyzing what practices are being implemented to see the effectiveness of it. There are priorities that surface at different times throughout the year. And you know, those priorities shift and they change at times. I can tell you as a former high school principal, looking at many of my former students out here in the audience, at times we began the school year where we called them alpha homerooms, where there were tighter homerooms. And then as students learned the routines and became more familiar with things, opened it up and allowed for much more flexibility and freedom. But nonetheless, I would encourage a conversation with your child's principal or with your child's administrators. Again, our work with the Labor Management Collaborative is around coming together, unifying to solve problems so that people feel that they are valued, they have a voice in the process, they're able to add to the solutions, and overall, we're able to improve climate. We've laid our flag in the ground. We've placed the flag in the ground. We believe that if we come together and we are able to work in this unified fashion, we believe that the trajectory is up for us across the board with everything. Academic achievement, staff morale, student interactions, interpersonal reactions, and personal relationships, we believe that the trajectory is up, and that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. So, we want to partner, we want to collaborate, we want to work together. That's what the board is demonstrating. That's what I'm demonstrating. I think that's what the staff is. That's what the staff longs for. That's what our community longs for, and that's what it's all about for us. Just one other note as well. So there is limited funding. So, with limited funding, we have programs that are provided and that are placed at the various schools. Programs may vary across the township. Carusi does have 2 special programs. Carusi houses our LLD program and our MD program as well. So there's a comment mentioned, but I definitely understand the concern. But if funds were unlimited, and Ms. Sugars reminds us that they're not, if funds were unlimited, we'd be able to have programs across the board. But again, we continue to analyze what we do for its effectiveness. But thank everyone for their comments. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you, Ms. Stern.
Thank you, Dr. Morton. Okay. I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Mrs. Fleischer, there's a lot of seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.